All right, everyone, welcome. Today, our guest is my great friend, Tehran Jones, also known as Ty. I've known this guy for several years. He's a fellow business owner, entrepreneur, hustler, just one of my favorite people, and I'm really excited to have him today. So let's start at the beginning, man. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what inspired your journey into real estate.
First, I want to say thank you for having me, Myke. I really appreciate you taking out the time. What was that question again?
So tell me a bit about your background, right? Like, who is Tehran Jones?
Well, Tehran Jones, I am a husband to a beautiful wife and father to 4 beautiful children. I grew up here in the city of Richmond, in historical Jackson Ward. And I'm just an individual that loves people and I love to change lives is what I'm all about. And that's basically it.
I love it. I used to live in Jackson Ward for a couple of years, actually, before it was cool. Now it's cool. It wasn't always such a cool place. I know you lived there before I did, but I used to live on Brook Road, the little diagonal.
Oh, yeah. Brook Road is a busy section.
Yeah.
And Jackson Ward is very historical. Maggie Walker, and just being in that, aside from Gilpin Court, just being in historical Jackson Ward, you can feel it's very vintage.
Yeah.
And it's very historical. So, I love Jackson Ward, tell you the truth.
So you lived there when?
Well, I was, when I was young, we grew up in Gilpin Court, in the projects. My mother was a single mother. My father was incarcerated. He did, time for murder. He got locked up back in 1982, and he didn't come home from his incarceration until 2010.
Wow.
So he was away for about 28 and a half years. And so we grew up in the projects. We moved from Gilpin Court when I was about 11 years old, going on 12. And, it was crazy because my mother fought so hard to get us out of that type of environment. But, and so we were obviously upset that we had to move, right? Back then when I was young, I didn't understand that, but she was trying to give us, put us in a better situation to grow. And I really appreciate my mother for doing that. If it wasn't for her and also the guidance of my father from the penitentiary, I wouldn't be the man that I am today.
So I also grew up with a single mother.
Okay.
And so I definitely think we have that experience in common.
Right.
So how do you feel like that? I would imagine it did, but how do you feel like that shaped who you are today? Because obviously you could have went down that same path, right? So
right.
How do you feel like that changed your direction as you became an adult?
Once I had children, because we all had wild lives, growing up, doing things contrary to what our parents taught us was the right thing. But once I had children, it was like I had to put away those childish ways. And what I did not want is for my children to grow up without a father, or me trying to be a father from a place of incarceration. I did not want that for my children, so that changed my life dramatically. And because I have a son, I have to basically teach him how to be a man. I have to be the example to him of what a man should be. And not just to him, but my 3 daughters also, of how a man should treat a woman. And the way that I treat my wife, my daughters see that. And so when they get older, anything outside of that, they're going to understand that it's not how a man is supposed to conduct himself when it comes to talking or communicating with a woman. But my main focus, my son, is I feel like in these days and the type of times that we're living, it's not enough men teaching boys how to be men. And one thing that's not going to happen is my son is not going to grow up not knowing what a man is. He will know how to be responsible and be the head of the household, and to lead with your head. Sometimes your heart can take you into places that ain't no coming back from. So always make moves with your mind. Never make moves out of desperation. Always think through it, is what I tell him. So, being a child of a father that has been incarcerated for 28 plus years, obviously it was things that I yearned for and longed for and needed that my father couldn't give me from the place that he was residing. So I said to myself, once I had children, I was never going to, nothing against my father. He did what he had to do, that he felt like he had to do as a man. But as for me, I try not to put myself in situations where I have to end up incarcerated or have to deal with the police or anything like that. So I try to teach my son that the first thing you need to show anyone, son, is respect. That's number one. And so because of me not having a father around, I am strongly in tune with my family and how they grow up, and every move that we make as men, it has to be strategic.
Yeah. I think it's it shows as such a strong part of your story and how strong of a person you are. And I think it says a lot to that hustle nature into
Right.
you. Like there's a wrong way to hustle and there's a right way to hustle.
Right.
And it's tough. It's tough to force yourself to stick to what you think is right, or more importantly, what you know is right.
Right.
Because it's so easy to make the opposite decision and go down the wrong path because
Right.
it's more of an, sometimes making the wrong decision can provide a faster result. And you have to fight the temptation to do that,
Yeah.
So how did this journey lead you into real estate, right? Because somebody might be thinking, okay, how does somebody in this upbringing, obviously you had the motivation to become who you are today, but where does real estate eventually come into the picture?
Well, obviously, coming from where I come from and living the life that I have lived before my children, in actuality, I'm really not supposed to be here, either dead or in prison, following the same footsteps of my father. And so I've had the blessing of becoming a homeowner, and during that process, the feeling that I had of me, and we have to take into consideration where I came from, the life that I grew up around, my environment. I'm the only child that became a homeowner. And my mother was so proud, and it was so many obstacles in the way of that. And it was something that I chose to do for the benefit of my family. And my life was changed when I became a homeowner. When I put that key in the door and I turned that key lock and opened that door and walked into my own space, something I can call my own, something that I can leave to my children. I feel like real estate just doesn't change lives individually, but on a scale where generational changes can happen when it comes to real estate. So I said to myself, I want people to experience that same thing. I want to change lives. I want those who feel as though they don't have a chance to do this, I want to be able to guide them in the right direction with my skills and my expertise to change their lives, not just individually, but like I said, generational. And that's why I chose to get into real estate, because I love helping people. I love changing lives. And that's just it.
It makes me think about just the bare fundamentals of life, right? Like we need shelter, we need food, and we need love.
Exactly.
And if you have those three things, like for the most part, you're pretty much good to go. And I think it's easy to underestimate like how important shelter is, right? Because we live in modern society where like, yeah, even if you're not a homeowner, like for the most part, you've got somewhere to go. Of course, there are people that are unfortunate and they really don't have anywhere to go. But
correct.
Most of us in modern society have a friend, have family, have a shelter, have a roof, have an apartment. We've got somewhere to go. But there is something to be said about that feeling of saying, this is my space and I can, turn this into whatever I want it to be. I can create an environment that I feel inspired by and energized by and safe in, and I can raise a family here and raise my kids here.
That's right.
And it's different than just having an apartment or, staying on your friend's couch or something.
Right.
So yeah, I can say as your friend, obviously, that of course I'm proud of you and I think it's an amazing thing, but it's really awesome to get your perspective.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. I think you take real estate and you express it in a way that I don't think many can. And it definitely speaks 100%. It definitely speaks to like why you've chosen that path.
Yeah.
So, I know personally, because you've shared the story with me about your father.
Okay.
Can you share a little bit about that story and how that also kind of influenced your path a little bit?
Yeah. So, my father, Jerry Hill, rest in peace. Father, I love you. My father had liver cancer, right? And he had surgery to remove the mass that was on his liver. And after he needed to, rehabilitate. And so he ended up going into a facility, nursing home. And he, it was a good nursing home. They took care of their residents to a certain point. But during his stay there, he choked on a sandwich, right? He was in the dining hall and he was eating his food and he choked on the sandwich. And the thing about it in facilities like that, when you have your seniors, most seniors in that type of facility needs help, right? They need help to eat, sometimes walk, change their bed, change their underclothes, and particularly in the space of the dining hall, there's supposed to be a trained staff member that's trained in CPR in case a situation like this might arise, and there was not a staff member on hand that day. And so my father died on that floor. And sometimes I used to feel, resentment that maybe I shouldn't have put him in that place. But if he was here, he would tell me, son, chin up, soldier. I'm in a better place. What you need to do is take what happened to me and bring it to the light, son. And so it got me to thinking about all the other seniors in places like this that they just don't have people to look out for them. And about 43 to 50% reported, 43 to 50% of seniors report that they are lonely or they are by themselves. And that's just the seniors that report that. So let's think about the ones that are not reported, right? There's people out here, these people I'm talking about, they paved the way for us to be able to live the way we live right now. We are able to eat the fruit from their labor right now because of the seniors that blood, sweat, and tears that they have paved the way over the years for us to live how we live. And we need to take care of them like they took care of us. And that's just plain and simple. Ain't no other way around it. When we were babies, we were kind of like them when they get old. We have no teeth. We need diapers. People have to feed us. We can't walk. We can't hardly talk. We needed guidance. We needed motherly love, fatherly love, siblings. And when people get old, it's the same thing. The first shall be last and the last shall be first, which what happened in the beginning, what happened in the end. When you're born, the same way you are when you're born, right? It's the same way you leave. Right before you leave, it's like you revert back. Unlike Benjamin Button, he was born old, I guess. But I do this because our seniors, those statistics, that's way too much.
Yeah.
Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like that's a lot. And so I just want to use my field to help out as much as I can and do what I can do to make sure that our seniors are taken care of. That's why I chose to not only do real estate, but also become a Golden Years real estate specialist because of the seniors that are not being taken care of. I just want to make sure that they're taken care of, man.
I think it's an amazing, obviously we could sit here and say oh, how noble of you. But I think it shows that you have a real reason for doing this and why you're interested in it. And of course I can only speak for myself, but my grandmother was in a nursing home.
Right.
And I had what I thought was an understanding of what nursing homes were and retirement communities and senior living and things like that, and even hospice care and stuff. Mm-hmm. But you have a whole different perspective when you actually see it, and especially when you see it involving somebody that you love and care for.
Oh, yes.
And my grandmother, not the exact same experience, but she did have a choking incident also at a nursing home. And I can say that everything was different after that, and other issues as well, but especially the loneliness piece also. You can feel it, you can see it when you're in there. And it's tough. And I couldn't imagine being one of the people that works there either, because it's not like their job is easy, you know? So it's such a difficult problem to solve. And I can absolutely see why you would take a focus and an interest in that particular area.
And I see that because of the simple fact that I see myself there. We all have to get old.
Yep.
So we think that, we're going to remain young forever, and that's just not the case. We all have to take that last ride. You understand what I'm saying? And that's just something that's a reality. And so I don't want, when I see my seniors, I see myself in them in the future. And sometimes all they want is someone to just talk to them,
Yeah.
To have a conversation with them, because things are not like they used to be when they were younger, and people tend not to pay much attention to older people as much as they should. I like to sit and talk. My wife, she sits and talks to her grandmother I don't want to say her age, but she is close to 100 almost.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And every time my wife, she sits down and has a conversation with her grandmother, she is so attentive. She listens, because the knowledge and wisdom that our seniors give to us, they already been through it.
Yep.
Like I say, they paved the way. If I can sit and talk to my father or talk to my grandmother right now and talk about my journey and tell them my plans, I'm sure they'll give me advice that'll help me,
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
It's crazy to think that such a big part of our lives revolve around just learning in general.
Right.
But that we would take the time to read a book or watch a documentary.
Right.
But we don't give the time and respect to the elderly. Like, of course, that doesn't speak for everybody. Many people like yourself do. And I can say myself that old ladies love me. So I try my best to, my best to.
Me too. I know that's right.
Exactly. So I try to converse and learn as much as I can.
Right.
But I do think there's this nomenclature that when somebody gets old, that they're just discarded of, which is crazy,
Right.
Yeah. It's sad and it's upsetting and it's frustrating.
It is.
Because there isn't really a clear solution. But there are many individual solutions depending on people's different scenarios, right? So the big picture may be cloudy, right? But as far as like immediate actions and things that people can do, I know that you help with a lot of these different things, right? So what are, if you mentioned this phrase, you said the last ride, which I love, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say somebody, they're on their last ride, right? They're riding out their last, 20 years, last couple of decades of their life or something. I think there's a lot of milestones along the way.
Right.
And I can think about my own grandparents and people in my life where, they're forfeiting their keys for the first time and they're saying, okay, either someone's making the decision for them that they're no longer driving, or they have to make that decision themselves, which I would imagine is hard. So I think of something like that. I think about selling your home and moving in with your parents, or selling your home and downsizing, or selling your home and moving into a retirement community, or you lose your husband or wife of 50, 60 years, and then you got to make a life transition there. So can you tell me about what are some of the like main transitions that these people experience and that also that you help with?
Well, what I try to do is to sit down with them and see what path that they want to take. Some people like NH, the NH process where they age inside of their own home, which I have contractors that come in and they will make your home more accessible for seniors. If there's you have a will, or you haven't written a will, I have vendors that will assist with that. Or if you want to go into a facility, then I have the top vendors when it comes to the process of transitioning into, the golden years. And that's what it's all about, having a team of individuals who understand and have compassion towards and can see themselves going through this situation, not it just being a business, because money is not the object here. That'll come, whatever, right? But taking care of our seniors is what it's all about. Because, like I said before, without them, where will we be, really?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Well, and I know we've spoken privately about not only how important it is, but how difficult it is to find, or not even find, but how important it is to work with the best people, right? Because, of course, unfortunately, elderly people are taken advantage of all the time, right? They're the ones getting scammed on the phone. They're the ones getting ripped off and writing checks for more than is necessary, and getting screwed over on unnecessary insurances and warranties and like all this stuff, right? So I think it's amazing that there are people like you, and there is someone like yourself that genuinely cares based on your own personal experiences, that is out there and willing to stick your neck out there and say, I've got your back, right? So can you speak on the level of importance of finding the right, vendors and partners that you work with, such as, like, why is it so important that, you find the right attorney to help with writing a will, or the right moving company to take care of somebody's antiques and stuff? Like, why is that so important to you?
It's important because when like I said, the seniors that I deal with, they work their whole lives to make sure that what they have, what they built up, is not just scammed or taken away from them. I deal with the best vendors because, like I said, they understand the process. And all of them 4.5 plus star ratings. And it's important to have these type of people because they know more about certain parts of the business than I do. I'm not saying I'm an expert in each part or each level, but I have experts working for me that understands each individual journey. And it's not about the money. It's about the quality of care that we give our seniors. So having great vendors mean a lot. I just don't want to send my seniors to just anybody, right? So research has been done. And like I said, I chose the best.
Well, I think people see you as a guide, right? Like they kind of see you almost as a protector and a guide throughout their experience, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Kind of protecting whether it's their assets or just their experience in general.
Right.
And I think that, even though if you were to just talk about like a real estate agent as a blanket statement, you probably wouldn't think about a lot of the things that you're mentioning about, which I think is such a great thing about why you specialize in that specifically.
Right.
So how do you, when people work with you, how do you want them to feel after working with you?
Like family.
I love that.
I want them to feel like family, like they can call on me anytime. I am that friend. I'm that 3:00 in the morning friend, individual. It's not business with me. I love to listen. And I love to take care of the people who has taken care of me. Even those who walk different paths. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we all are family. And that's what I want the seniors that I talk to or take care of. I want them to feel like, hey, Tehran is family. And no matter what, he's going to point me in the right direction.
I love that. And like obviously I've experienced that as your friend, you know,
Right.
and I know that I picked that up about you, and like you're a great friend. Like you're a great
You are
person.
too, Mike.
But you spend so much time taking care of everybody else, right? Like you have a family, you've got kids, and you've got your clients, you got all these people that you support and provide for and care for. Like, how does Tehran take care of Tehran? You know, like, can you speak about, you know, maybe your routine and the things that are kind of critical to you and being able to, you know, hold yourself up so that you can be able to help others?
Well, my personal drive and all of my strength comes from the Lord. I mean, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. I will stand on that. I will die by that. And it has been times where I felt like I just couldn't do anymore. And my strength, he gives me strength, you know, from day to day. And I lean on that. I lean into that. That's who I am. And that's just a part of my DNA. It is through being consistent, persistent. I never give up. That's just one thing I just never give up. My wife tells me all the time when I'm working on something and she's just like, I would have been gave up. You just, I'm up to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning trying to, you know, figure it out. But I mean, you only lose when you quit. You understand what I'm saying? So I can't quit. There's people that's dependent on me, not just, you know, the seniors, but my family is dependent on me. My wife, we have to get old. So that's what drives me. That's what, you know, motivates me. I like to work out, eat well. My wife and I, we're pescatarians. I don't indulge in none of the meats except for fish, man. I'm trying to tell you, lobster, seafood, but I try to control my dopamine levels also. But I just like to be consistent with the right things. You know, all of us have habits. It's just you have good habits, bad habits, and it's all about replacing those bad habits with good habits. And that's what I've done, and I will continue to do that.
I love that. So, I mean, I can definitely say, like, I feel like this conversation it's left me inspired for sure, like truly. And I appreciate kind of your vulnerability and the willingness to share your story, as well as your father's story, and speak for all the people that maybe don't have the ability to come here and sit on a podcast and
Right.
talk about some of their hurdles or things, right? So for anybody out there they're currently faced with a difficult decision, right? Like taking the keys from their parents, right?
Right.
You know, for people that are, you know, my age particularly, like our parents are getting older, and there are difficult decisions that need to be made, and they're hard. So do you have any particular advice for anybody that might be listening that is faced with a difficult decision, specifically when it comes to, you know, senior care?
Right.
And, you know, what advice would you give somebody?
I mean, I would just tell them that, you know, like I said, we all have to go that way. And the advice that I want to give them is you don't have to do it alone, right? I have things in place to make the process easier. Certain decisions, you make the decision and we carry out the decision. We make sure that the path is made straight, right? And like I said, you don't have to do it alone. It can be hard to make those decisions, but every decision that you make is based on the fact that you're trying to take care of your senior or your mother, your father, maybe your uncle. that's the advice I could give them, is that, you just need to make sure that they are all right during their final transition. And don't feel any resentment towards what you have to do. It is what it is. We all have to go that way. We all have to get old. And so let's take care of them, and just do the right thing. It's a process. It's going to be hard, but you just got to push through.
And what's the first step? So how can people find you? How should they reach out to you? Do you have a website? Like what's the first step? How should people reach out to you?
Well, they can reach out to me on my website is tehranjones.homes, or you can email me at tehranjonesrealtor@gmail.com. You can also look me up on Instagram. I think it's Tehran Jones Realtor, and that's on Instagram. Or you can give me a call, 804-930-2116, at any time, day or night, in the middle of the night. It doesn't matter. I'm available. So reach out to me if you have any questions. If you are thinking about it, let's sit and have a conversation.
I love it. Well, thank you, Ty. And thanks for holding space today. And
yeah, for sure.
Talking through a difficult topic. And yeah, thanks for what you do. Thanks for all your hard work. Thanks for who you are. And thanks so much for today, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Myke.
Of course, man. You're very welcome.
Appreciate you.
Love it.
My man.
It's all she wrote, man.